I almost did not go. That is the honest truth. If I had stayed in my workshop 5 minutes longer, if my phone battery had died, if I had listened to that little voice telling me this was another dumb prank, none of this would have happened. But life does not care about almosts. It only cares about the moments you show up for. My name is Zane. I am 25 years old, and I make my living with my hands. I am a carpenter, picking up freelance jobs around the outskirts of Colorado Springs. Decks, tables, shelves, repairs people put off, until something finally breaks. I live alone in a small wooden cabin tucked against a hill of pine trees. Just me and my rescue dog Harley, a scruffy mutt who sheds too much and thinks the couch belongs to him. The place smells like sawdust and sap, and most nights I sit on the porch with a beer, listening to the wind move through the trees. It is a quiet life, a simple one, and until recently it felt complete enough. My friends do not see it that way. To them, I am the lone wolf, the single guy, the one who never brings a date to group dinners. They tease me about it constantly, saying I will end up married to my toolbox. I laugh it off because dating has never really worked for me. The apps feel fake. The conversations feel forced. I always end up feeling like I am trying to sell a version of myself that is not real. So when my friend Derek texted me on Friday night saying they were setting me up on a blind date, I assumed it was a joke. Sunday. 3 pages M, Lakeview Coffee by the water. Trust us, you will thank us later. I told him fine, but if this was another prank, he owed me drinks for a month. They had done worse before. Once they signed me up for a speed dating event without telling me. I spent 20 minutes listening to a woman talk about her pet iguana. I figured this was more of the same. Sunday came fast. I was sanding a cedar chair in my workshop when I remembered the time. Sawdust in my hair, music playing low, Harley asleep by the door. I almost ignored it. Instead, I washed my hands, changed into clean jeans, a flannel shirt, and my work boots. That was as dressed up as I got. Lakeview Coffee was warm and quiet, wooden beams, big windows facing the lake, sunlight rippling across the water outside. I ordered a black coffee and took a seat by the window. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting my friends to burst in laughing. 3:05 came and went. No texts, no calls. I was about to leave when the door chimed. She walked in, and everything in me went still. I did not know her name yet, but I knew she was not part of a prank. She moved with calm confidence, like she was comfortable in her own skin. Brown hair pulled into a loose bun, soft strands framing her face. A long floral dress that swayed as she walked, a cream-colored cardigan that looked warm and familiar. She looked around the room, then her eyes landed on me, and she smiled. She walked straight to my table. "Zane?" she asked, her voice warm. I stood up too fast and nearly knocked over my coffee. "Yeah, that's me." "I'm Elise," she said, sitting down across from me. "I'm guessing we are both victims of the same setup." Quote. I laughed before I could stop myself, the tension leaving my shoulders all at once. Her friend had sent her too, told her to meet a guy named Zane. She thought it might be a joke, but she showed up anyway. We sat there smiling at each other, two strangers caught in the same unexpected moment. I expected awkward silence. It never came. We talked. About nothing at first, then about everything. She listened in a way I was not used to, really listening. I told her about my work, about Harley, about the cabin. She told me she was 38, worked remotely writing ad copy, and lived nearby with her mom, who needed help. She spoke calmly, without bitterness, like someone who had accepted life as it was. Hours passed without either of us noticing. When the cafe started closing, the sun was low over the lake, painting the water gold. We walked out together, the air cool against my skin. I wanted to ask for her number, but something stopped me. I did not want to rush it. I did not want to ruin the feeling. By her car, she turned to me. "I had a really good time," she said. "Me too," I replied, and I meant it. That night, back in my cabin, I could not stop thinking about her. Her laugh, the way she looked at me like I mattered. I waited for my phone to buzz with my friends laughing about the joke, but it stayed silent. 2 days later, while I was working, my phone buzzed. It was her. She thanked me for the coffee and asked if I wanted to meet again. My heart did something strange in my chest. I typed back yes without thinking. And that was the moment I knew this was not a joke anymore. Thursday evening came faster than I expected. I tried to tell myself it was just a walk. Nothing heavy, nothing serious. But my hands still shook a little as I clipped Harley's leash on and checked my reflection in the truck window for the third time. I had changed shirts twice before settling on a clean flannel. Harley did not care, he just wanted outside. The lakefront trail was quiet when I arrived. The water stretched wide and calm, catching the last light of the day. Pine trees lined the path, their shadows long and soft. I spotted her right away. Elise was sitting on a bench, holding a thermos in both hands. Her hair was down this time, curling just past her shoulders. She wore a gray sweater and jeans, simple and effortless. When Harley spotted her, he pulled hard on the leash, tail wagging like he already knew her. She laughed as he bounded up, sniffing her hands like she was an old friend. "Wow," she said, crouching to scratch behind his ears. "You were not kidding. He's charming." "Takes after me," I said, trying to sound relaxed. She raised an eyebrow, smiling. "We'll see about that." We started walking, Harley trotting happily between us. At first we talked about small things, the trail, the weather. How Harley once stole a sandwich off my counter. Elise told me she used to come here after long workdays to clear her head. The conversation felt easy, like picking up a thread we had already started. Then she asked about my work. I told her why I liked carpentry, how I liked making things that lasted, how my first table wobbled so badly I almost threw it out, but I kept going anyway. She listened closely, asking questions that made me feel like what I did mattered. "Your work sounds honest," she said. "Not many people build things with their hands anymore." I shrugged, a little embarrassed. "It's just wood." "It's not just wood," she said, stopping to look at me. "It's something real." Something shifted in my chest at that. After that night, we kept meeting. Sometimes it was simple, walks by the lake, coffee downtown. Other times it felt more personal. One evening, she came over to my cabin. I grilled steaks, nervous the whole time, and she brought a bottle of red wine that was way nicer than anything I usually bought. We ate on the porch while the sky turned dark, Harley asleep at our feet. Another night, we went to a small art cafe and painted tiny canvases. Mine looked like a mess. Hers looked thoughtful and calm, like her. We laughed until our hands were smeared with paint and our faces hurt. I started noticing the little things. The way she touched my arm when she laughed. The way her eyes softened when she talked about her mom. The way she never checked her phone when we were together. She was present, fully there, and it made me want to be the same. She told me more about her life. How she moved back to help her mom. How she had been married once. "It didn't work out," she said quietly. No anger, no drama, just truth. I did not push. I listened. I listened. The more time we spent together, the more I felt something growing. Not rushed, not forced, just steady. And that scared me. One afternoon, we were at a small grocery store outside town, debating bread choices for sandwiches. I was teasing her about overthinking it when I felt her hand tense in mine. I followed her gaze and saw him. He was polished, confident, holding hands with a younger woman. When he saw Elise, he froze. "Elise," he said, surprised. "Mark," she replied, calm and cool. I knew instantly who he was. He looked at me, then at our joined hands, a smirk forming. "So this is your new thing?" The way he said it made my jaw tighten. Elise did not flinch. She lifted her chin and squeezed my hand. "This is Zane," she said, "and he makes me feel like I matter." Her words hit me hard. Mark's smile faded. He muttered something and turned away. We walked off together, her hand still tight in mine. In the car, she was quiet. I did not push her to talk. I just reached over and held her hand. She held on like she needed it. That night at my cabin, she finally spoke. "He used to make me feel small," she said softly, "like I was never enough." I pulled her into my arms, holding her close. "You are more than enough," I said, meaning every word. She relaxed against me, like she had been carrying something heavy for a long time. After that, things felt deeper. We did not talk about Mark again, but I could feel how much it affected her. I stayed close. I showed up. And she let me. Then one rainy evening, my phone buzzed while I was working. "Can I come over?" she texted. "I don't want to be alone tonight." I replied right away. When she arrived, rain dripping from her hair, she looked tired, but relieved. We made tea and sat by the window while rain tapped against the glass. Harley curled up at her feet. She talked about everything she had been holding in: the divorce, the loneliness, the fear of wanting something again. "You make me feel safe," she said quietly, "and that scares me." I leaned in and kissed her, slow, gentle, real. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "I'm afraid this is too good to be real," she whispered. "It's real," I said, "and I'm not going anywhere." That night, she stayed. And as the rain fell outside my cabin, I realized my quiet life was changing in ways I never saw coming. After that night, nothing felt casual anymore. Elise did not move in or anything dramatic like that, but she started leaving little pieces of herself in my life. A mug she liked stayed in my cabinet. A sweater hung on the back of a chair. Her herbal tea slowly replaced my cheap coffee in the pantry. My cabin, once just mine and Harley's, started to feel shared. I liked it more than I expected. Mornings changed. I would wake up to messages from her asking how my day was going before it even started. Some evenings she would sit in my workshop while I worked, scrolling quietly or asking questions about what I was building. She never rushed me. She just liked being there. One afternoon, while I was fitting joints on a bookshelf, she watched me for a long time without speaking. "You know," she said finally, "you're very patient." I laughed. "You should have seen my first year doing this. I broke more things than I fixed." She smiled, resting her chin in her hand. "Still, you don't force things. You let them become what they're meant to be." I did not realize it then, but she was not just talking about wood. As weeks passed, she opened up more. Not all at once, but slowly, like someone testing the ground before stepping forward. She talked about how her marriage had ended quietly, without shouting or cheating, just absence. About how lonely it felt to live next to someone who stopped seeing you. "I promised myself I'd never feel invisible again," she said one night on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. "But wanting someone again makes you vulnerable." I took her hand. "Vulnerable doesn't mean weak." She looked at me like she was memorizing my face. I started noticing how the age difference showed up in small ways. She had lived more life. She had scars I could not see but could feel. Sometimes she would pull back just a little, like she was afraid to lean too hard on something that might disappear. I tried to be steady. I showed up when I said I would. I listened more than I talked. I stayed. Then came the night that shook her. Her mom had a bad fall. Elise called me, her voice tight, barely holding together. I dropped everything and drove her to the hospital. I sat beside her in the waiting room while machines beeped and time stretched thin. I held her hand while doctors talked and plans were made. Her mom was okay, shaken but stable, but the fear lingered. Later that night, back at my cabin, Elise broke down. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet tears that soaked into my shirt as she held on to me. "I'm tired of being strong," she whispered. I wrapped my arms around her. "Then don't be." "Not here." Quote. That night, she fell asleep against my chest, and I stayed awake longer than usual, listening to her breathe, realizing how deeply I cared. A few days later, doubt finally found its voice. We were cleaning up after dinner when she grew quiet. Too quiet. "Zane," she said slowly, "what happens when this stops being easy?" I turned to face her. "Why would it stop?" Quote. She hesitated. "I'm older. I've already lived a whole life before you. What if one day you wake up and realize you want something different?" The question hit harder than I expected. I took her hands, grounding both of us. I don't see you as a phase, I said. I see you as someone I choose. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled. I want to believe that. I'll give you reasons to, I said. The real test came sooner than I thought. A job offer landed in my lap, a big one. A long-term project building custom interiors for cabins near the mountains. Good money, steady work, but it meant long hours and time away. When I told Elise, she nodded and smiled, but I saw the worry behind her eyes. I don't want to hold you back, she said. You're not, I replied. You're part of my life, not a pause button. She studied me for a long moment, then stepped forward and hugged me tight. That night, as we lay together listening to the wind outside, I realized something important. Loving Elise was not about excitement or novelty. It was about choosing her every day, even when fear whispered in the background. And I was choosing her. Still, I could feel something coming. A moment that would force us to face what this really was. Neither of us knew it yet, but everything was about to change. The moment that changed everything came quietly. No big argument. No dramatic fight. Just a simple question asked on an ordinary night. We were sitting on the porch, the air cool, the pines moving softly in the dark. Harley was asleep between our feet. Elise was leaning against me, her head on my shoulder, fingers tracing slow circles on my arm. Zane, she said gently, where do you see yourself in a year? I knew what she was really asking. I took a breath. Right here, I said, working, building, with you. She lifted her head and looked at me, really looked at me. And in 5 years? With you, I said again, without hesitation. Her eyes filled, not with fear this time, but with something like relief. I keep waiting for the moment you realize this is too much, she admitted. The age difference. My life, my responsibilities. I turned toward her, cupping her face in my hands. I'm not confused. I'm not settling. I'm choosing you. That was the night she finally let herself believe it. A few weeks later, she asked if she could stay over more often. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The cabin felt warmer with her there. Lived in. Real. Mornings meant shared coffee on the porch. Evenings meant cooking together, music low, her head resting against my shoulder while I chopped vegetables. One afternoon, her mom came by. I was nervous. Elise warned me about her sharp tongue, but when she looked around my cabin, she smiled softly. She asked about my work, about Harley, about how we met. When Elise stepped outside to take a call, her mom looked at me and said, she hasn't smiled like this in years, don't waste it. I never planned to. The job in the mountains started, and the days got longer. But I always came back, sometimes exhausted, sometimes covered in sawdust. Elise would meet me at the door, wrap her arms around me, and suddenly the weight lifted. One night, after a long day, I came home to find her sitting at the table, papers spread out. I've been offered a chance to work fully remote, she said carefully. Anywhere. I felt my chest tighten. Anywhere? She nodded. I don't want to build a life next to you. I want to build it with you, if you'll let me. I did not answer right away. I walked to the bedroom, opened the drawer, and came back with a small wooden ring box I had been carving for weeks, unsure if I was ready. I knelt in front of her. I don't have a fancy speech, I said, my voice shaking. But I know this. You made my quiet life full. You made me braver. And I don't want a future that doesn't have you in it. Quote. Her hands flew to her mouth. Elise, I said, opening the box, will you stay? Quote. She laughed through tears and pulled me into her arms before I even finished. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. We did not rush anything after that. We told our friends. They were shocked, quiet, then proud. We told her mom, who cried and hugged me like she had known all along. Some nights, I still sit on the porch listening to the wind through the trees. But now Elise sits beside me, her hand in mine, Harley at our feet. What started as a joke turned into the realest thing I have ever known. And I am grateful every day that I showed up.